Hello.
Hi.
Is that Ryan there?
Yeah.
Hey, Ryan, how's it going?
Oh, pretty good.
We got Jan, Bob, and Casey on as well. Hey, everybody.
How's it going, man?
Good, good. How are you doing?
Not bad. Enjoying this warm weather.
Heck yeah. Where are you out of, Bob?
Springfield, Missouri, just north.
Oh, yeah, yeah. We got 74 degrees here in Fayetteville today.
I know, and you're wearing a jacket and a hat. What's up?
Yeah, I was out this morning
See,
moving some
I'm
stuff
dressed
around
for the
early.
occasion. I've got a wife beater on, and
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be warming up here pretty quick. Hey, Casey.
Hey, everybody.
Oh, that must be nice. It's 42 here.
Ooh, where's that?
North coast of California.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, chillier than I would expect out there right now.
Yeah.
Well, cool. All right, guys. Well, hey, thanks everybody for joining. For those of you all who join on a regular basis, Drew has recently been hosting these on a weekly basis because I have been waist deep in a lot of product development work. So I'm kind of taking the mantle on that front for the next 6 months or so. We got a lot of work we're doing there, but I'm filling in for him right now because we are all hands on deck after Black Friday, which was awesome. Man, we have a lot of new people coming into the group right now, and we're trying to fulfill everybody's orders. So I'm back filling for Drew today, but we've got, as always, we got the mastermind here, Casey Connolly, to help if anybody has things to go through, and yeah, and we can just talk shop and have some fun. So let's to kind of kick off. Does anybody have any just initial support questions or issues you're running into on your machines these days? Or
yeah, I've got one real quick, and it's probably, and I'm fairly new. I'm about 3 weeks into this, and I did all the calibration and everything, and I did this sign the other day that was about I don't know, 3 feet by 15 inches wide, and I just did it vertically. It was a Harley Davidson sign. But I did it on the left-hand side of the sheet of plywood, and it seemed like it was skewed. I mean, everything came out, it cut fine, but it seemed like it was angled on the plywood, and the G-code and everything on the screen was perfectly vertical. So I didn't know if that was something I've got going on with my calibration or what might be going on there. But I did do that process where you go up and say, okay, measure from the base up to the top of your material left and all that other stuff too, thinking that would fix it, and it didn't. So
did it, when you do an edge calibration and you go around and then input your numbers and it calibrates your accuracy, did it give you kind of any information at the end that says you're, this many millimeters from calibrated, and we think the reason is that you're skewed and your work surface or something is skewed potentially?
It said 1 millimeter.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's all I recall seeing on that. But I thought about just running through that process again because it makes sense that that's where it's probably messed up. But man, I tell you what, every time I did the edge calibration, it was right on the money. It was less than 1/8 of an inch from the edge.
So weird.
Yeah,
because usually you would, Casey, any thoughts there? Usually if your edge calibration is pretty accurate, especially top corner to middle, I'm thinking top left corner to middle spot to top right corner. If that's pretty straight and you're not getting any bowing down or upwards, then to me, that would be my first thought of what's creating that.
Yeah, I shot a laser level from center of those gears to, on both sides, and it was level. So,
So, how far off to the left? You said you were cutting over to the left. How far off to the left were you cutting?
I would say it was
all the way over.
Split the plywood up into fourths. If we split the plywood up into fourths, it was the second one over from the left, the second and fourth. So
it's just a little bit off center, but just to the left.
Yeah,
is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's true. That's the easy way of saying it.
Yeah. So the other thing is so there's just a couple of things there I think I'd look at. First, your frame, check your 15 degrees and make sure if you're looking at your frame from the side and your frame is sitting at an angle, sometimes what happens is one side is kicked out more than the other.
Gotcha.
You see what I mean? And think
Yeah.
about it. If one side of that frame is kicked out like this, the Maslow, the M2 is now
Right.
kind of uphill on this side and downhill over here, even off of center. So make sure your frame, the bottom of the frame, all the legs are touching the ground.
Yeah.
Not one side is kind of cocked out or either way. So check
Yeah.
your 15 degrees all the way across. The
That's a
second
good
thing,
idea.
the second thing that I think that I would look at is whenever you measured those, so your sprockets may be level, but are they level to your wasteboard?
Gotcha.
So your height from the center of your sprockets down, don't include your skirts if you put any skirts on anything, but from the center of your sprockets down to very top of your wasteboard, they need to be as accurate and close as possible. And I have one of those, I don't know if you're part of that, you watch those YouTube videos that I made on that, but I show you how to measure those. You can't just measure, everything is sitting at a 15-degree angle. You got your top beam and then your wasteboard, right? When you measure 15 degrees down, you're supposed to measure 15 degrees or measure down on that 15-degree angle. So I show you how to put a straight edge on the motor against the sprocket so it kind of sticks out at that 15-degree, and then how to use a square to put across that so you can check that measurement and measure it in millimeters. A lot of people do it in, regular unit. Measure in millimeters. If you're off 1 millimeter, that's less than a 16th, right? It's way more accurate. So anyway, I would check that, because if one side is off, you might have those might be perfectly in line with each other. But if your wasteboard down at the bottom is angled out and kicked down like this, then yeah, it's definitely going to give you a speed cut.
That makes sense. I'll check that. I did not check that. So that'd be easy enough to do on the 15-degree angle. I can just shoot a laser down and measure it out from the base of the ball or something. So
I use this kind of tool to get the accurate measurement.
Look at that.
There you go.
That's awesome.
Well, that's the only technical thing I had, but I do have just general question about, I got some free material from my brother-in-law, and it's 4x4 sheets of plastic that's about maybe less than 1/8 of an inch thick. And I was curious if anybody's had any experience using the M2 to cut plastic, and if so, do they have any recommendations, on really how to adhere it? Number one, I'm thinking double-sided tape, but then it's going to be wavy, or just maybe tape all the way around it or something. I don't know yet.
Yeah, we definitely do cut like acrylic, and a straight bit slow router speed is definitely your first basic inputs. In terms of mounting, anybody else mounted acrylic to it? I get what you're saying there. I tried to. I mean, double-sided tape would work pretty well, and again, the sled's going to press on it.
I'm going to grab a sheet of this real quick and show you how flimsy it is, because it's not solid. So
yeah, so the best thing that I've found to mount, especially a super smooth surface like acrylic or Lexan or something like that, best way to put that up on your wasteboard is get you some painter's tape and a thing of super glue. Put a piece of painter's tape on one side of that material you got right there, and then put a piece of tape up on there, super glue, let them stick together, and you can even get some activator, and that'll hold that shit to that wasteboard really.
I was thinking about that too, because I've done that a long time ago with my Bob CNC, and I just thought, well, I'm going to ask and see. But yeah, you can see how flimsy this stuff is. So
yeah, and the problem with that stuff will be that it'll want to bow out in the center whenever it's there at a vertical like that. It'll want to bow in the center. So some long strips of blue duct or blue painter's tape with the super glue method with the little accelerator, I bet that'd hold that stuff real tight, real good.
Yeah, because I could see where the Z would just not come up all the way, and it would start cutting lines it's moving and all that other stuff. So yeah, that's all I had, guys. I don't mean to hog the meeting, but yeah, that's perfect. Thanks for that, Casey.
Yep, no problem.
Right on. Cool. Great. All right. What else is going on, folks?
Okay. Hey, so first
Yeah.
off, Casey, thanks for helping me out. Well, my wife on Facebook the other day as I was trying to get my calibration set up. Here, my culprit inaccurate metric tape measure. Yeah. Yeah, the tab on the end is off by like 3 millimeters. So as you're measuring
Worst.
inside to outside, it was off by 6.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So yeah, that was headache after headache that finally got exposed. But yeah. But I do have 2 technical questions. First off, with the new board that's included with the M2, is it possible to set up the Z probe? I can't find anything that says where the the aux connections, which apparently were on the old boards, are to be able to tie into.
That's a good question. I mean, there currently isn't a Z probe calibration component for the M2. If you want to get, I guess if you want to get fancy and make one out of aluminum or something that slides into the back, right? But I'm not sure if the firmware has that capability set for it. I think that's something, Patrick, you'd have to ask is it already, is Z-axis calibration programming already in the M2? I'm not sure.
Right.
I'm going to send a question on that right now.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, if the software is already ready for it, because remember this software isn't only used for just the M2, but
right,
if somebody's already, it's an open source software, so heck, who knows? Somebody a couple of years ago might have already written that code in, and it's buried in there somewhere, right?
Well, I know, like
if it's in there,
there's a widget for it in the Makerverse software. It's right there on the side, and like I said, there's plenty of threads in on the forums and stuff like that that talk about attaching it to the auxiliary 4 on the older boards. It's just, that those ports aren't on the new do boards. So
on the old Mega board or on the old 2.3 and old 2020 M2?
Not on the M2 that I can find. I haven't found anything where it references the M2 with the
because we do have the do board does have essentially, I want to call it aux ports, but it does have ports on it on the side, either using the laser ones or ones adjacent to it that are intended to be kind of like a free play sort of option. Like you can attach
the Z plus and Z minus connections. Yeah, but and I have found one thread that talks about it a little bit, but doesn't really identify which, because apparently, and I'm not great on like the actual electronic side of it, but people are trying to trace the paths and all that stuff to try to find out exactly which pin is connected to what, so that they can match that up to the firmware so that we can make this work. But there's not a whole lot. I guess there's missing information out there, and they can't actually get from A to C because they don't know what's in the middle.
I just put the question out to our lead software engineer just to see what his thoughts are. If I get a response today, I'll let you know. And if not, I can post it in the owners group.
Okay. Yeah. Because I definitely like to be able to, if possible, use those, that Z plus and minus, or even if I've got to do, breakout pins to come off of the main Arduino, but to, what's that?
I can give you a workaround for that. I know. So what you can do is you can take a piece of aluminum, and the aluminum, just as long as it fits into the 3-inch diameter hole in there, and on the aluminum you can put a positive negative wire, and one negative wire would go to a magnet. And what you can do is just put you can actually buy them on Amazon. It's just a little battery operated piezo sounder. And what you can do is you just drop that in the little hole, and then you put the magnet onto the bit and you lower it down. And once it's touching, then you know that that's where that is. You can set that as your home, right? Yeah, pretty close. Yeah, pretty close to exactly that. And
Yeah.
then all you have to do is take a set of calipers and measure the thickness of that piece of aluminum or whatever it is that you have. And you can measure that. And then, I need to go down exactly 2.2 millimeters or whatever it might be. You move that down and then you reset your home, and then you have a perfectly homed Z.
Yeah, that's basically what I've been doing here, sliding the metal ruler underneath the sled and then dropping the Z until I get continuity on my multimeter. And then
That's
chaos
how
is right
that's
there.
how I did it like a year ago. I was using my multimeter just to get continuity. You
Yeah.
could just set it on the setting and it would ping it off of from my ruler or my meter through the ruler, and then I just put a alligator clamp on the bit.
Yeah.
And it would go down and it would just buzz, and then I would just pull the ruler out. That way it told me that my bit was perfectly level with the bottom of my sled, but that doesn't mean it's perfectly level with the wood you're cutting.
Yeah.
That's what I found out, because not all plywood on the surface, it waves a little bit. So that doesn't
Right.
mean you're going to be, it just means your bit is level with the bottom of your
Right.
of your sled.
Right. Well, as close as you can.
Yeah. I mean, I have a design for a little round disc I want to just put in there and then take a magnet, stick it to it, and it takes like one AA or one AAA battery, and it would buzz at you. You can put it in there, run it down. Whenever it starts buzzing, you stop, set your home, lift it out, set it back to home, and then just drop it down, whatever the thickness of that material is. And it'll then, that, I think that would be the first, I don't know, Z-axis homing thing the M2 has ever had, right, Patrick? Yeah,
sure.
it'd be simple and easy. It's just a piece of cut metal and a piezoelectric little diode with a speaker on it. I mean, those are cheap and easy.
Right.
But yeah, I messed with that a year and a half ago, and that's how I did it for a while. But honestly, I went back to the paper method. It's muss and fuss free, right? It's fast and easy.
How accurate are you needing to get with that Z probe? And what is the current sort of bottleneck or pain point you're experiencing? Is it just that you're not feeling that you're accurate enough by eyeballing it, or is it just that the going back and forth is a hassle to look and then go and adjust and look and adjust?
Yeah, so kind of the way my stuff is set up right now. So obviously you can see the machine behind me, but the computer is actually on the far wall. So unfortunately, I didn't plan very well. So I have to keep walking back and forth. That's why having that nice audio tone is helpful. But it was just one of those things where, it's right that as soon as you open the Makerverse software, the Z probe widget is right there on the side to say, okay, run Z and zero it for me. It just seemed like it's a feature that would be very convenient to have. I mean, even if I could see it right off, just to be able to put that underneath there and hit it and have it go. Cause I have been doing a lot of more intricate stuff, and having to switch between bits and this and that, and to have to be going back and forth between, to recalibrate Z every time I switch bits has already been kind of cumbersome.
Yeah. So, well, and that's good to know. And I ask about the accuracy versus like the back and forth hassle, because it's not exactly the same. But one of the reasons we launched the mini cam was for that very reason.
And that's one of my next questions.
Yeah. Okay. So that thing works very well for helping you to calibrate that Z. And again, like I said, like you're going to be down to that 1/10 of a millimeter level. So you're not like, it's not going to be fully as accurate as a Z probe. But I mean, if your problem is that I'm just going back and forth constantly, like just sitting there looking at it and watching and pressing the button, it's honestly very convenient. I've been enjoying using it a lot. So I would recommend that as well as an immediate option that is plug and play for the M2 today.
Right. And now, so the mini cam, it is plug and play if you're running the dedicated Makerverse software. But if you are running with the web server going through a Pi, it is not. It will not auto detect the cameras.
Oh.
So you have to set up a separate web server to run the camera. Now, not a big deal. I actually already have one set up in the corner where I can observe the entire cutting bed so I can watch the sled move around. But I am interested in adding that second sled-based one. And that means I would now be running a second web server. And now we're putting more and more load on this Pi, whereas if it could be natively supported, because the USB should be passed through the Pi into Docker where the Makerverse is running. So I'm not sure where in the software it's not recognizing that webcam.
That's a great question. I have no clue. I might need to get Rui on here who designed it. That's really good. So let me ask you one other thing though, then, like, what is the viability of just, I mean, if that's your purpose for using it, right, then what is the viability of simply standalone plugging that camera into like a separate monitor or something that you can just have there for visit? It doesn't have to communicate with Makerverse for you to be able to make the adjustment in Makerverse based on what you're seeing on a monitor. Again, I know these are kind of cumbersome workarounds a little bit, but you know, in terms of getting you up to speed as quick as possible.
Patrick, does it have a driver? Does the minicam have a driver? No.
No, and see that's just it. Because like with I'm using a Logitech at the moment. I'm going to switch out for something else. But you know, there's no driver involved for anything with that, but it still does not recognize the cam. I can pull the cam up, like I said, on the Pi and everything else, but for some reason that feed is there, that device is not visible in the Makerverse software. So, but back to your question. So, you know, the plan is, you know, yes, it's great to be able to see what's going on right there at the bit, but I also like just to have that overall situational awareness about what's going on as the sled is moving around. So that's why I kind of want to be able to have that 2 camera setup, as I cannot, you know, really be 100% here all of the time. We're using the web server and all that was kind of the reason behind, you know, why I went with the web server, is I can actually monitor all of those things remotely while I'm doing other things, you know, obviously smoke alarm and all that stuff here. That way I know if anything is going drastically wrong, but, you know, to be able to see if, you know, just to have better situational awareness and be able to monitor both of those at the same time, because you can double that widget in Makerverse. So you can watch both cameras independently of each other, but not if you can't get them recognized. Yeah,
that makes sense. Okay, so I got the question out there now for that as well.
Okay.
But hey, Mike, did you get your minicam?
No, I haven't got the minicam yet.
Okay, I'm gonna ping Matt right now to make sure you get one.
So I thought Chris Skiles just sent out a thing on Facebook about the Pi.
He had responded in the owners group for something. I don't know what he was on about.
That might have been the conversation with my wife.
Oh, probably.
Going back and forth. I don't have Facebook, so I have to go through her. But going back and forth about, no, that wasn't Chris, was it?
Chris was on there talking with somebody about Raspberry Pi and Makerverse, so that's probably you all. Yeah, that's not a very frequent question.
Okay, yeah, it was probably her then. Yeah, and the recommendation that I got through there as well was, you know, to set up basically a web server on the Pi. So, but again, like I said, you know, if it would be a lot less overhead on the Pi itself if it would recognize natively, and I just don't know, you know, that's outside of my realm of knowledge of why that might not be happening.
Yep. So okay, so I've got questions out on that as well, but if you're having the conversation with Skiles in there right now, that's a great place to kind of kick that question around. He'll have good insight into that pretty quick, I would assume.
Okay, let me see. Let me ask my wife who it is. But feel free, anyone else?
Yeah. Jan, how's it going on your end? Pepe? Do you prefer Pepe or Jan?
Oh, it's equal.
Yeah. Okay.
You can.
So
Yes, I have still some issues with the measures, with the accuracy, and let me show you, because I cut it out nearly the center, as you can see here, but I have still around 1 millimeter. And as you see, I add the stones here to get the weight of around 35 pounds you recommended. And oh,
Lost your video.
sorry.
There we go.
Yes, but at the moment I really don't know exactly. But I found I starting to study the G code a little bit, and find out that when the G code comes from easel, I don't find anything about the G40. And G40, you have G40, G41, and 42, which means if you are on the center line, left or right side, and when you get this G code from easels, you don't get anything information about that, because I think the software or the system software from MakerMade cannot handle the G40 and 41 and so on. I don't know exactly, but because I get some fault messages about that. Yes, to get a good result, I work a little with a workaround, and yes, I change the tools. So I tell the system in Fusion 360 that I work with a 2 millimeters tool, but I use a 3.5 millimeter, and in this direction I got better results.
So then that sounds like it's truly an issue with the code rather than the hardware or the calibration. Is there any? I don't want to play dumb here, but just basics, right? Like in terms of inside, outside the line, and how you're creating that, you're confident in where that bit is inside versus outside the line. Is that fair? Does that make sense? So
I don't know if this is really the issue. I don't know exactly, but it helps a little bit to get better results. And now I just have around 0.5 millimeter, and with this 0.5 millimeter, just a second, I will show you. Maybe it's better. You see now, this is a cutout, and you see for it. Yes, it's a little kind of kinematic, and it's really necessary that that I get here good results, nearly to less than 1 millimeter. You see.
So when you are running an easel, are you selecting for these components? Are you selecting outside the line?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then that's the first easy question. That's so weird. The bit diameter you're having to change in Fusion.
But the problem is, so I have so many data. It's impossible to handle everything in easel.
Wow, the file's just too big.
Yes,
wow.
The files are too big and too much files, and
so I mean, I build cabinetry and furniture, and I know that whenever I load my flat files into the DXF converter in easel, and I generate the G code, I then sometimes take and I open the G code with a text editor. And in that G code, I do see the commands for outside cut, on the line cut, or inside the line cut. So I know easel does handle those. I know they do. But to be completely frank and honest with you, the only reason why I would think that you would be having problems with that has to be the design itself. Something's confusing the system. Why? What's different in your drawing that would be doing that? To be quite honest, I don't know, but I know easel can handle that. And I've loaded entire kitchen cabinets. And I mean, you're talking, 18, 20 hours worth of cuts into easel, and it handles that. So it's got to be why you would have to change your bit diameter from what the bit diameter really is to get that accuracy. It's got to be something in your design. I would go back to my design files and check those. Check everything. That I think that you're looking for a millimeter or better of accuracy on all your cuts. That's, to be honest with you, that's really stretching the M2. Better than a millimeter is, that's fantastic. And it sounds like that's a major requirement for you. And to change your bit size to get down to less than a millimeter of accuracy is, it's got to be in your design. That's just my 2 cents. Because I know easel can handle it. I do it. And I don't know how you're doing checking your GRBL commands for the $40, whatever. But I just open up a text editor and I open the GRBL code in a text editor, and it will list everything. It looks like a Word document, right? There's thousands of lines of code. You got to scroll through, but you can do a search function, and you can search for specific components. There's another one online, and I don't remember what the name of it is, but you can actually load your G code into it, and the software somehow knows what each one of those lines of code are, and it tells you what that means in just layman's terms. So if you're not a GRBL programmer, it'll say, 0 the bit, move from X to this position to this. It'll say, this is a move command, this is a move command, this is a lift the Z axis command. It will tell you that. So for people that don't know how to program GRBL, it's nice to look at that list and you can kind of see what's going on, what your machine should be doing, right? And I think that would be key for you, is to find out, look at those commands, look at the commands versus your bit diameter. And that's the first thing I would look at, is see that whenever you convert in the GRBL, if easel is giving you the proper, if it's converting your bit size, are you using a metric bit? Or are you using a standard imperial, like a 1/8 inch bit, etc.? Or are you using like,
yes, at the moment I use a 1/8 inch.
bit? So you're using just a standard 1/8 inch bit?
Yep.
Okay. In easel, do you have easel Pro, or are you using the free version?
No, I used before the free version. Now I have no access anymore, but
well, I use the free version as well, but I know you're limited into what kind of bits you can choose. So I always go into easel and I create my own bit. You can only use it once. You got to go in and do it every time because it's the free version. But I go in there and I tell it that it's a double flute bit, and it's exactly what the millimeters are. Is it a 2.5, a 2.16 millimeter bit, whatever it is? I put that in there, and then
I tried in the past too. I also add a 3 millimeters bit too, but it also doesn't work well.
I'm not sure why it would do that. I know like I said, I've made a lot of things with mine, and I know it does convert it, and I check my G code, so it does work, but there's got to be something else going on there. Maybe try loading another version of easel. I don't know. Maybe you got a corrupted version or something. I don't know. Are you using a Windows or Mac?
I'm
Windows
using a
or
Mac.
A Mac. Okay, that's what I'm using. It's, I don't know. I don't know. That's the only thing. I try to change, use a different G code editor instead of easel. It sounds like you found a workaround, but that doesn't mean the problem's fixed. The problem's still there. You just found a workaround,
Yes.
right? It can come back anytime. So yeah, I would do that. Use a different G code editor and check the new G code you're
Okay.
loading
Okay.
to Makerverse and make sure it has those commands in it.
Okay, thanks.
It,
I will
it sounds
go
it sounds like
ahead in
your
this direction.
Yeah.
it sounds like your cuts are repeatable though, right? So to me, I mean, it sounds like your accuracy is there, right? If the error you're getting is repeatable. So I don't know either. Casey, do you know, have you imported into like easel? Is there a difference in output G code when you import like an SVG versus a DXF? I only import ever SVGs because I work in Illustrator, but I don't know if anybody's ever noticed any variance there.
Well, with the difference between an SVG and a DXF, so a DXF, of course, is an engineered flat file.
Right.
So the lines are going to be very crisp. With SVGs or JPEGs and stuff like that, you can, we've seen a lot of those in the Facebook page, the Facebook forum, where it didn't cut the edge right because, you know, if you zoom in on an SVG or a JPEG, that pencil line is like 6 millimeters wide, right?
Well,
So
an SVG, it
kind
should
of
still be vector. It's a vector file, right?
It does, but sometimes the way those original files were drawn were not drawn to be converted, right? So it'll actually, I've seen people, there was somebody cutting out something from Mickey Mouse about 4 or 5 months ago, to where whenever it cut the inside of the face profile, it cut up. But whenever it cut this side, it went around where the original bit went. So he had a double fat face, and they were like, why is this happening? Well, when they zoomed in on their file that they created, they actually just downloaded it from the internet. Well, that's what the software did when it tried to convert it, because that line was wider, and according to the software, it thought there were 2 lines. But
yeah, that's
the
so
software
interesting.
trying to guess what the designer was doing. That's what happens, right?
That's, yeah, and you know, like if anybody ever worked with like Glowforge's software, it essentially, no matter what you import the file as, it essentially views it as a raster image and then backs into its own vector file from there, because it assumes you've just screwed something up and it can do a better job, right?
Yep, exactly,
So,
exactly. And see, easel's just the opposite. Easel says that whenever you load this, it's a perfect file already.
Yeah.
So it doesn't care. It's going to generate it right there. It's going to cut the file. It's going to generate the G code, and it's going to export it. So I would say probably 10% of the problems I deal with on Facebook a lot of the times are the design, the original file that was loaded into easel or whatever that was. It wasn't, it needs to be cleaned up. It's not that it's a bad design. It just needs to be cleaned up and then reloaded into easel, and then the G code regenerated.
Gotcha. Cool.
So
James,
Yan, for yours here, I'm not sure where you got your design. If you created it, it's a DXF and you created it, or if it's a drawing file you scanned and copied. I don't know, but I would go back and look at that original file you're loading in to create that G code.
Yeah, that's a good call. Especially it sounds like it's repeatable. So I would agree with that. Cool.
Okay,
Well,
thank you.
yeah. We've got others. We got Dustin on here. We got Bob, Matt. How's it going, guys?
Hey, good morning. I was just going to say really fast from what Casey was saying. I put the NC Viewer website in the chat.
Saw that.
So you can open up your cut file there, and you can actually click on a line, and it'll take you. You'll see the visual version with all the paths of the cuts. You can click on any one of those paths, and it'll take you to the code and show you where you are at in the code. So if you need to do any editing, it's right there.
I was looking at that. I saw the chat come across. That is pretty amazing. I mean, I haven't ever seen software like that where you could click on the line and it would take you right to the G code. So
yeah, this pops up in the Facebook page a lot, or the group chat. And a lot of people find it very useful.
Well, just for restarting, like if you have an error or something somewhere, this would be phenomenal.
Yep. You can literally just start it right where you left off.
So you can't do that in Makerverse though, can you? This right here, what it's doing?
Not yet. Casey,
Okay.
you have to go into the file itself, delete the code,
Right.
and then re-import it. Is that how you do it?
Yeah,
Well, I'm
so
just-
if you have a, let's say, a power outage, or you have to emergency stop or whatever during a cut. And within Makerverse, if you go, there's a drop down to where you, instead of looking at the 3-dimensional view, you can actually ask it to look at the G code. That's a little bit more boring than looking at the 3D. But what's nice is I will start a cut in my shop. I'm kind of a busybody, so I'm all over the shop. I'm not necessarily sitting there staring at the thing while it's cutting, right? But what I do is I click on the G code, and it'll go through and it'll process each line of G code, and it highlights it and it scrolls through. Makerverse shows you which line it's currently processing. And what I do is I always have a notebook by me, and every one of those lines of code have a number. Line number 45, line number 46, line number 47. And about every 5 or 10 minutes, I'll go over and I'll just scratch out and like write what number I'm on.
That's a good idea.
And that's saved my butt at least 5 or 6 times. So what happens is, what I do is if the power goes out, we have something, whatever, right? What I can do is I can go back over there and say, well, shoot, 3 minutes ago, I was on line 45. So I can actually go into that text editor I was talking about earlier. I'll just take the G code, open it with a text editor, delete all the lines down to line 45, and then save it and then reload it. And it might go through and cut air for 2 minutes. It'll go back through something I've cut for 2 minutes, but then I'm almost starting exactly where I was before. So instead of, that's happened to me whenever I was, 6 hours into a cut. So instead of going back through and going layer by layer by layer around things, boxes, 3/4 inch plywood with 15 layers of cuts, it almost started exactly where I needed it to. That's the way I did it. That was my workaround, and I still use that to this day.
Casey, can you lop off? I thought there was some header information on in the NC file that you needed. Can you just lop it off at all the way down to line 35 or whatever you said?
Yeah, I just delete the lines of code. I don't delete any of the header information. That's got your bit size, your X, Y, and Z home. All of that stays the same. I just go down to line number 1 where it starts processing. And from there down, again, it's a text editor. I just highlight there down for whatever line, delete, and reload, or save it, reload, and go from there.
Okay, so you're not deleting the top of the file all the way down to 45. You're leaving some of the top of the bit of the file.
Well, the top of the file, again, it's you call it header data, but that's machine data. So it tells you all of your home access, your X, Y, and Z home number. When you set that, that's saved in that header data. So you don't want to delete any of that. You'll easily go down and you'll see where it starts dropping the access. You'll see that code and you'll say, okay, that's where from there down I need to start.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
I just posted a little bit of code in chat. So where you're saying, so like go down to like line, what, 4?
That would be where, so what is this from? Is this the beginning of a file?
This is the beginning, the first 12 lines out of a G code file that I just copied straight out of Makerverse. So, okay, I guess it's 6. If you drag the chat window a little wider, it's a lot easier to read.
Yeah, I bet it's line 6 because that's got your XYZ coordinates.
Okay, so the first 5 would be all the home data that you would need to keep.
Well, Casey, get his opinion, but I would think that's it, just because that's how I'm reading it. It's saying move to X position, Y, and then Z position.
That's what I'm seeing. Yeah. I don't know the file and I don't know the design, but if I'm just reading this code, It would be probably number 6 or 7, because if you look at line 9 where it says Z minus, that's where it's drilling the bit down. That's where it's driving the bit.
Okay.
So that means it's actually moved. We were saying it's line 6. It's moved from the home position up, and it's now driving the bit in.
Oh, okay.
You want all of that gone. So even where it moves from the home position up, you want it to get rid of that. So that would be line 6 or 7. And that one where it says line Z minus 0.0234 F9. F9 is drill down, and Z minus is how deep it's trying to go. So you've already moved the sled from your home position to the first part of your design. Those other 2 up here at the top. So the 3 before that have moved that. X, Y, and Z all moved.
Oh, okay. Actually, now that I translate, I kind of get this. So 3 is actually where it's putting the Z axis at the standoff before it starts. Then 4, it's moving to the start position. 5, it's putting Z down to the surface of the material. And then 6 is where it's actually starting to plunge and do that cut. It is doing a plunge, so a tapered plunge cut. So
yeah,
that would explain.
So looking at this number 3, 4, and 5 on there, those are your home position coordinates for X, Y, Z.
Right.
And you don't want to delete those. If you delete those, you're done.
Right.
Your next one's line 6, 7, and 8. That's where it's moving.
Right.
From your home position to the very first place it's going to start. It doesn't always start in that bottom corner or wherever.
Right.
It might go to the top of it. Depends on what the G code says should be cut first.
Right. And I think that's what 4 is. 4, I think, is moving it to the cut start, because it's going to 1 point whatever on X and 0.89 on Y. And then it's plunging Z down to be flush on the cutting surface. And then 6, it's starting to move to those XY coordinates while plunging down as it ramps down into the material.
Yeah. And this is where if you get confused on any of this right here, this is where that NC editor would come in. You could actually click on that line and it'll tell you what it's doing.
Awesome.
So, I mean, generally, I know my designs whenever I design them anyway. So I know exactly what these moves are, but just looking at your design here, that's what I'm guessing. You would keep lines 1 through probably 5 on here, maybe 6. Delete everything else down to line 45 or wherever it was you made a note while you were letting it cut.
Gotcha.
That's what I do. Does that make sense to everybody, or?
Yes, it does to me. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, the NG viewer, if you haven't checked that out already, whoever, Ryan, you ought to look at that. And that'll really help you out to see exactly what it's doing visually, just by pasting in your G code. And you can actually go step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you'll see where you're at. So,
yep,
that's really cool.
Yeah.
Don't forget there's a play button. You can actually watch it animated move through your cuts.
Oh, well, thanks for that. I didn't even notice.
Yeah, down the bottom in the 3D viewer area.
Sure enough. I was too busy playing with it.
Yep. So yeah, Pepe, maybe that will help you. You can actually get to that spot and see if it does it virtually. And then you can tell if it's either your file or the machine.
Oh yeah, what a great way to test.
Yeah. It's amazing people do that kind of stuff for free. Like, we just get on a website and see something that complicated. That's just nuts.
Yeah. You don't get that in many communities or markets, right?
Yeah.
CNC users.
I'm a programmer and I don't feel compelled to go do something for free, especially the older I get.
Right. You ever hire a software engineer, you know how expensive their time is.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's cool. All right. Good stuff. What other questions we got today? Matt, I love your Santa sign behind you, by the way. It's a long story. Santa.
Yeah. I won't let my wife buy any more of those signs. I say, just take a picture of it. I'll cut it out.
Exactly.
That one's a store-bought one. I'm embarrassed to show it. That one's store-bought.
We're gonna put Hobby Lobby out if we keep
Yeah, yeah.
onboarding more people.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Awesome.
I have a quick question. Is
Yeah.
there a place that has a cut file for the sled for the M2?
Which version?
The 2021 version?
I have it. I don't remember what we had determined on a policy for that. I think I'm pretty sure we said we'd give it out for anybody who wanted it.
Okay. I didn't know if that was an option or not.
Mhm.
I've been thinking of adding a metal plate underneath my sled
Mhm.
and seeing if maybe that will help with some weight and some alignment I'm dealing with.
Friction too, potentially.
Yeah, hopefully. So I was just curious if that was a possibility or not.
I'm in parts files now. Let me just see. Here's a sled. I see an SVG here. Let me just confirm this is the right one.
So there's a way to cheat with that. So for anybody that has the laser, Lightburn has an awesome outlining and tracing function within the Lightburn software. I have literally taken photos from Google and I pasted the photo and did trace with it. And it traced the entire outline of Charlie Brown and the family. And then I just went through and I clicked explode. So it exploded everything and I deleted everything I didn't want.
Mm.
Yeah, I know that's a cheap, cheesy way to do it, but that works.
You think it's good enough for the accuracy of the drill holes on the sled?
Guys,
So I'm dropping this in the chat right now, Dustin. So the only thing is I opened it up in Illustrator, the SVG. The SVG is not the file type we have to use for the manufacturing process. It's a file type I'm not even familiar with, but for the machine shop is what they use. So anyway, I opened it up in Illustrator and it showed me that it was like 17.4 inch diameter. So it's supposed to be 18 inches on the nose. Anyway, just something to be aware of. That may be like the beveled diameter, like the top of the bevel on that. So just an FYI there, the actual outside dims should be exactly 18 inches.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm dropping it in right now. Parts file, sled, and
Hey, Casey, did you say that, do you think that Lightburn works better than Adobe's tracing?
Thank you.
I can't say for sure. I'm not an Adobe expert, to be honest with you. Lightburn, I've got a pretty darn good grasp of that. And it's so simple. You just open the file and you copy it in there and then you right click it and I click trace.
Yeah.
And boom, it traces it.
I didn't know. I'm gonna have to try that out.
I might have to do a little cleanup here and there, but I mean, you can even trace family photos. It'll trace family photos. I mean, it's crazy stuff. The trace function in Lightburn is really, really good.
Every other, so in terms of like graphic design usage, which is what Illustrator's image trace is for, every single version of it seems to have issues when it comes to like functional file creation. So I'll be really, Casey, I didn't know that Lightburn had a trace feature in it, but because it's made for G-code creation, I gotta imagine they found some ways to make it way more efficient for that use. So I'm really excited to see what this looks like. Very
Let me
cool.
see if I can, I'm at the office right now. Let me see if I can open it up and I might be able to share the screen here.
We're working on our own version of an image trace software or program. So if somebody's already doing it really well, if Lightburn does it really well, then In Casey, are you finding it's useful for laser engraving only, or are you finding it useful also? Have you tried it for milling as well?
Well, it's G code is G code, right?
Mhm.
I mean, all you'd have to do is go in and take that G code and load it into easel. So instead of looking at laser power definitions, instead you're looking at mill bit size and depth and speed.
Yeah, I get that, but I mean, I guess like, when you're looking at laser engraving versus milling, like you were talking about, like when it views a path as an inside and an outside line versus a single path line, right? That's like one of the primary challenges I have with Illustrator's image trace is it views edges rather than paths on lines. And we're trying to create a variant of an image trace that views lines as singular paths.
Exactly.
Has anybody used Inkscape?
I haven't. I know others have.
Yeah,
So I use a lot of Inkscape.
Thanks, man.
Inkscape is obviously like a free version of Illustrator. And it obviously doesn't have all the additional filters and capabilities that Illustrator has. But when it comes to creating SVGs, I can drop any image in, go up and hit trace bitmap, and just adjusting the level of darkness and detection and the smoothing it out, I can have an SVG within a few minutes.
Inkscape has a trace bitmap function.
Yeah, straight up, just click. It's like 5 clicks and you're done.
Oh
So
my
what makes
God.
it amazing is it gives you a rapid succession to get to the nodes to adjust your SVG. So like Patrick, do you have Inkscape on your computer?
Right now, no, I had it downloaded, but I wasn't using it.
If you get a chance, download it, and I can walk you through it in minutes. Like I don't know if you can download it now. Like it takes 2 minutes. That's how I build 90% of my SVGs. I'll even upload SVGs into Inkscape because while it isn't really, there's a lot of things it can't do like Illustrator. When it comes to building the basic files, 2D files, it's 100% amazing. But I haven't tried the light burn function, to be honest. Like I'm excited to try that because I do have a download, Casey. I just haven't tried the trace function. The real challenge you face is if you really want those lines, like you were talking about doing a portrait, right? You'd have to run it through a filter before you do the bitmap trace. So
Yeah. So let me, Patrick, can you give me access to share my screen?
Yep. One sec.
There is a way to do it as a SVG, JPEG, etc., and get it over to easel. So you don't have to worry about that. I opened it. Let me know when everybody can.
You're available now, Casey. You can do it.
Share screen. Which one is it? Sorry, guys. I got 5 computer screens in here. I'm trying to.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Also, hey, Lauren, it's been a minute. How you doing, man?
It's been chaotic. Been getting ready to change jobs. So like having Thursday, it's not been so easy, but yeah, so it'll smooth out soon. I know this is weird, but I got all excited to sign in last week. Realized well, it's Thanksgiving. Not everybody's we do a late Thanksgiving dinner, not an early lunch. So
yeah,
but
gotcha. Can everybody see my screen here?
Not yet.
See you, Casey.
You still see me? What the?
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's glorious in all of its
Yeah.
Let's see.
Got a nice haircut and some glasses going on. Gray hair on the beard.
A good image trace.
Yeah. Use the screenshot as an example.
Is it sharing at all, or I don't know? It might be my company blocks it. Again, I'm at work, guys. Sorry about this.
Yeah.
It's 12 o'clock.
But what you can do is you can go into, let me try it again, share screen. Yeah, it's asking me to share specific systems. I can't share my screen itself. Let's see here. Sorry, guys.
It's not. Yeah, it's not. Just making sure it's not on the. Shouldn't be on the Zoom side.
Just a quick comment while we wait. So that Facebook conversation that you were talking about earlier, that was not with me. That was with somebody else about just trying to get their pie imaged. So.
Got it. I did get a note back on that note. I got a note back from Rui. Where did it go? Into camera conversation. It's a regular webcam, how it interfaces computers. So it looks like he hasn't done testing through the Raspberry Pi. So I don't think there's any particular workaround right now. The other thing I will say, guys, is that in January, I'd say about 75 to 90% chance we're launching in January with Makerverse 2.0. So there's going to be a lot of new features. Oh, there we go, Casey. A lot of new features
Perfect.
available too. So, all right, let's take a look at this.
So this, I'm making a cutting board for Christmas right now. So what I did was I just found this on the internet, right? And what you do is I just imported it and pasted it in here. And with this, I just hit this. I go down to trace image, and right here you can adjust cutoffs. You can adjust whatever you may want. You can adjust your thresholds. I usually leave.
Define for the group the difference between cutoff and threshold, Casey.
So if you watch your lines on your cutoff, some of those lines start fading out. So your cutoff is really your detail, right? And your threshold, it's the same thing. If you watch this, watch the pink lines, how it all starts to fade. But what happens is you see this svgnewstyle.com. Yeah, this is pirated. I downloaded it from Google. So what they try to do is they put the watermarks in them. But what threshold and cutoff does is it'll take those watermarks out. So it's kind of a pirated version of stealing what shouldn't be stolen. So that's kind of what they do, right? So once you adjust them, I do a trace image on it, and then I get it like this, and I keep this okay. Let's see here.
Inkscape does this almost the exact same way. Very, very similar.
Yeah, probably. For
Illustrator
some
does
reason,
that.
it's cutting off my screen over here. I can't hit okay.
Yeah, it's just the bit mapping feature. But I say bit mapping. There's two different definitions there I'm thinking of, Lauren, but I would be interested to see Inkscape's version of this.
So then once you hit okay, you just grab the centerpiece and you scroll it out here. And right here it is. And you can
Wow, that came out well.
Yeah, you can actually click on it here and you can go up to a preview version. And then you can hit okay to play and see what it does. This is how Lightburn would literally burn it. And you can actually invert the design. You can do all kinds of stuff. Here's your shade to power requirements. If you're doing like a family photo on tile, which I'm going to try for the first time this weekend. I want to do a nice black and white photo, right? But this is what it is. So once you have that the way you want it, you just go back and I delete this file. Now with this one right here, I always save this as a Lightburn file and I go ahead and start my burn. But I noticed that if I go up here and I can hit file, I can now hit export, and I can export it as an SVG, a DXF, or an Illustrator file. So I can export as a SVG and then just open that SVG up with easel, and I'd be able to cut this.
That's single line. Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's better than Adobe, because Adobe will actually get the thickness of that black line and you'll have to do some fixing there. Okay.
That's what I want. That is a great image trace feature.
Yeah.
Bob, I'm right there with you. That's the problem I always run into.
And so like this, it has this other stuff on there I didn't want. So I don't know if you just seen that, but I just went in and I clicked ungroup, and then I can go in and I can pull out all this junk I don't want. If I don't like the stars, I can go in and I can delete just the stars, right? So then, yeah, and then you can add more shapes over here. You can redesign it however you want.
Yeah.
Well,
And
I was trying this same thing in V-carve this morning to get a single line, Patrick, and
Yeah.
it did a pretty good job, but I literally had to get on this call, but I just tried it like 5 minutes before, but I don't know if it was as good, especially with the rounding of the corners and stuff like that as this. But
yeah, this is great. And like you were saying, Bob, I mean, like when I go in and do Illustrator side, right, it's not even just a matter of like deleting one of the two paths that a single line should create. It's that then both of those paths are offset from the true line you actually want. So then you have to go back and like offset path to get it where it should actually be, or else you get some really funkily kind of larger or fatter or thinner lines or text than you wanted. So it's such a hassle. This is so much more seamless.
yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna keep researching on Adobe too. If I find a way, I'll let you guys know on the next call or two. So
Great. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
this
tried all the
is
different
good.
versions. None of them worked.
So anyway, guys, that's how I do my outlines, my traces. I
Mhm.
just find that Lightburn's so
Oh.
fast, it's simple, it's easy, and I use Lightburn to do the trace. But what I'm finding now is I can now do Lightburn as a trace, which is one of the best trace functions I've found so far. I'll use Lightburn to do the trace, export it as an SVG. And if I export it as an SVG, I'm going to have to check, but I bet it keeps the same measurements. So now I can do a cut and burn on the same file. Ooh. So now I'll be able to burn and then use a V bit to do any V carving I want to do on a burned component, or V carving and then import SVG to Lightburn and burn the V carving in. So you've got a 3-dimensional picture.
And you save this straight to G-code, right?
For Lightburn, it saves it as a Lightburn file. Yeah, Lightburn is a G-code file. Lightburn does its own conversion, just like Easel does. Easel generates the G-code.
Okay. So what's your next step here to get it into Makerverse to get that piece going? You export it as
So
something?
if I have this right here, once I'm done, I would just go out over here and I would click export and I would save it to my desktop, probably as an SVG right here.
Okay, I got you now.
And then I would just directly upload that file into Easel.
Okay.
So, but like I said, the nice thing, if I sit here and the more I think about it, this is saving this SVG at a specific bit rate. So it should maintain its dimensions. So if I export it out of here as an SVG and I load it into Makerverse, it should maintain these dimensions, 160, yeah, it'll be, what is that? 280, 290 millimeters by whatever here. It'll maintain that size. So if I upload that into Makerverse or into Easel, it'll maintain those dimensions. So now I got a Lightburn file for carving or burning, and I got a Makerverse G code that are all the same dimensions. So now I can burn and cut on the exact same design.
Hey, Casey, real quick, can you select all of that and adjust it to an exact size?
Like this?
Yeah, can you control exactly down to the dimensions? Okay, I see it there, height and width. Never mind. Yeah, there it is.
Lock and unlock too. So
Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm on my phone, so it's kind of
you can do this with specific pieces of it too.
right.
So once you explode it, right, you can make the pig
Right.
bigger, you can move the pig around, whatever you want to do. Yeah, the more I learn about Lightburn, the more I like it, to be honest with everybody.
it's a really great
It
program.
is. It is. It's
Especially
awesome,
when you get
awesome,
some of it for free.
Once you set up your parameters for the M2, I mean, it's basically just import export. It's
Well,
really
then your parameters are all over here, right, on your cuts. So like,
right.
I can take this all and I can put it on the same line here. I don't know if you guys can see this. I see all your
Layer,
faces.
yeah.
But you can go over here and then you do your line layers. So then I can do whatever I want. I can even turn on the advanced to go to cut paths, and I can start to do cut paths on everything. But yeah, and then you can go through and you can do each one of these as a different layer. I can choose the pig as a different layer and then set different parameters on the pig. So I might want, yeah, the pig at 50% burn, and I might want the words at 100% burn. So I don't know if anybody's watched Facebook, but I've uploaded several burns that I've done, and you can see it's very, very detailed. And this is how I did it, exactly using the software and everything I'm doing right here.
Very cool. That's a great demo, Casey. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Sweet. All right. See you, Lauren. There, bud. Guys, anything else we got going on today? Any other topics to cover? CNC or otherwise? What's new? Any fun plans for the holidays? I'm trying to get out of town. We'll see if it happens.
But we're rolling into year 5, and it's like my family, we never learn our lesson, right? About every 5 years, we decide to travel up north for Christmas because we want a white Christmas.
Yeah.
And then we go up there, everybody gets sick, we get the flu, we get the sniffles, and then we come home and we think, we're never doing that again.
Right.
So this year is that year, the 5th year. So we're heading out on the 22nd. Yeah, the 22nd, and we'll be back on the 29th.
Take some Theraflu or whatever you need. Just stock up now.
Yeah, exactly. That's we'll figure it out, I guess, as we go.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. All right. Well, anything else anybody wants to go through? I got no other talking points for the day. Okay.
I'm good. I'm downloading Lightburn though.
Yeah, good call.
So Lightburn, you do get a free trial. I can't remember what I paid for it, but I want to say it was $100, and it's
$40, like $45.
Is it?
Oh, I was just looking like 2 days ago and it said 60. So I guess they're all over the place.
Hey, Black Friday, the prices are going up, man. Explain to me. But yeah, it's a solid perpetual license. You just don't need any upgrades after the first year, but you don't have to keep paying for the license year after year unless you want to upgrade.
Okay. Well, I'm going to try that trial and compare it to VCarve, because VCarve's license is just the opposite. I think that you get the latest and greatest version year over year. So,
but you pay for it year over year, right? It's a yearly subscription.
Nope.
One time, as far as I know.
For VCarve Pro.
VCarve.
Yeah, VCarve Pro. Yeah, that's what I have.
Huh. I thought it was a subscription style.
No, I've had it for a few years. I just recently went from desktop to Pro. So,
Cool.
but yeah, this was great, guys. I appreciate all the insights, Casey. That's helped me out a lot, especially on my sled and cutting it at a slight angle and all that stuff. So I'm anxious to get started on that. So appreciate it.
Okay. Well, you guys can always reach out to us also on Facebook. There's a ton of really good expert users on there that I'm sure you can get a lot of good pointers, or if you just have general questions, ask them on there and people will answer.
Yep, absolutely. All right, guys. Well, thank you everybody for joining. And if you have any questions, hope to see you next week, or just want to hang out. We'll be here next week. So yeah.
One more thing real quick, if you don't mind. So I heard somebody mention earlier about the sled weight. What is generally a good place to be at on weight?
25 to 35 pounds is what I always recommend.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Cause I'm floating at like 26 right now. I mean, the only reason I would need to go higher is if I'm having trouble getting all the way down into the corners, right? Or
there's a few different reasons why you might want to add more weight. But yeah, that's one. I mean, it looks like are you on a 15-foot chain setup, or is that
it's a 15-foot. Yeah. That's a 12-foot top beam.
Yeah. Okay. Then, I think if you're at 26, you could add a little bit more. Sometimes that I've seen that help with just, again, like it keeps the sled from twisting. And so if you've got any amount of like off centering of your bit, that can be helpful too. I just find that it keeps things more consistent to have a little extra weight on the sled, repeatability. it just keeps that sled stable. Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Sure. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Have a nice day.
Yeah.
Thanks,
y'all too.
everybody. Have a good one.
Good one, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.